the person who was taking over said, "Oh, by the way, we need to change this. This needs to be overhauled." And the scope was doing this and a
I
little bit
know,
of
right? And
and a little bit
expanding.
of that. Till we had to say, "Hey, everybody, hold it right there.
There. Uh-huh.
Your scope is it's creeping. You've not been able to confirm a budget to me,
Hmm.
and these gates." We're getting to those gates that we talked about. So eventually, we were able to sound the alarm loud enough to the client. So we have a system of regular reporting. So
Hmm.
not just monthly status reports. We have
And I'm sure a project slayer. Check it out. Uh-huh. Welcome to the Project Management Experience, where we share real life experiences of project managers who are simply blazing the trail in the project management domain. Today, we have a very special guest who has over 22 years' experience acing, delivering projects successfully. Her name is Ugo C, Aluta, and I can't wait to dive in on episode 10 with you today. See you soon. Welcome to the Project Management Experience again. Today we have a very special guest. She has over 22 years experience managing projects and delivering value to organizations. We have on today's episode Ugo C, Aluta, and she will be delighting us with all the experiences and knowledge that comes from being in that field as a project manager. Quite longer than me, I can say for sure.
not in your field.
Thank you so much, Hugo, and really appreciate you joining us today.
Thank you.
We would like to learn a lot about you, but first of all, let's start on a personal level before we start to talk about all the fun stuff, right?
Mhm.
All right, so let's get to meet you, Hugo. Who is Hugo, and how has it been so far through your career journey as a project manager?
Okay. Hi, Cindy. It's really wonderful to be here and to talk about my profession. I always get nervous when I put on a seat like this because it makes you feel like you're supposed to be some kind of expert, but you're just doing
No.
what you do, right?
Yes.
So my name is Ugo Aluta. I'm a Nigerian by birth. I grew up in Nigeria. I practiced in Nigeria for over 20 years. My background is in architecture, so I'm an architect first, registered and practicing in Nigeria. And over the years, because of the nature of the work, I morphed into project management, eventually deciding to get certified as a project manager in 2020 after about 20 years of experience then.
Oh,
And then after doing the PMP, I decided to go further into sustainability as a construction project manager. And I acquired additional certifications. I am a lead accredited professional with a specialty in building design and construction. So in 2022, I came to Canada uh, to study construction management at Conestoga College. And right now I work as a project leader with a leading project management firm here in Canada.
wow, wow, wow. Excited to have you. You can definitely see the progression and the constant, you know, um, pursuits for improvement as you climb your career, which is quite interesting. And I must say that you definitely wow me. You inspire me. First of all, I got into the construction space for a few months and I ran away. I actually got the Build Safe certificate and was working and we're doing this renovation project. It was a 10-year renovation project. It was a lot. So definitely when I see you here, you're in a construction space doing wonders, I definitely marvel.
The same way I
Well
marvel
done,
at
Hugo. You do what?
the same way I marvel at IT people. I'm an end
Oh,
user.
really?
I just want the computer to work. That's it.
And we'll get it working for you right away.
Great.
All right. Thank you so much again for joining us. So I'm interested in knowing how has it been for you in the construction space generally? And for folks that are probably looking to, get into the construction field, because I know quite a number of people that would say they are structural engineers, they are architects, they probably will want to glean one or two things from you from your experience so far.
So I gained my experience in construction from Nigeria.
Mm-hmm.
I started as a pupil architect with a firm based in Lagos. I cut my teeth doing the grunt work, learning design, going to sites and doing little things like observing, taking notes, learning under a senior architect, taking minutes, noting the way things were done and comparing the work that was done against drawings and just generally sharpening my skills of observation. Sometimes you're reviewing schedules and gaining that experience to know how you track the progress of work. And occasionally you would be given the opportunity to go and verify the quantum of work that was done. So you're actually tracking cost,
Mm-hmm.
eventually before you get to the stage where you're managing or responsible for budgets. So I started doing those things without thinking of project management, but understanding those things to be part of the work of an architect.
Mm-hmm.
So that's how I cut my teeth in construction. Started small, smaller challenges, increasing and ramping up, and then responsibilities increasing and ramping up. And of course, with every thing that you learn, you gain a little bit more confidence. So it's not like from day one I was thrown into some giant project. I started small, and I learned the value of mentorship, of having senior people in front of you to learn from, and a safe place to make mistakes and to learn from your mistakes and to learn from the mistakes of your colleagues. So that's how I started to grow in that field. And so I would say to anybody who's looking to get into it, let's say you are green, you're young, you're still at college, or you're a young person, don't be afraid to start small. And
Mm-hmm.
starting small doesn't also mean when you're 21, because I restarted my career coming to Canada.
Wow.
So I went back to school. We'll talk about that later, but I went back to school to learn how things are done here in Canada, because some things translates in the same way. There are some things in project management and construction that are the same in IT, but then the context is also different. So there are many things that are different. So there are many things, the contracts are different. Even the way people do business, the way people practice is different. We're a bit more aggressive back home. But at the
Mm-hmm.
same time, our projects are not always as successful as the projects here. So those are the little nuances I had to learn going to school, and then restarting my career here as a co-op student and talking to people who were probably not yet in secondary school when I started practicing. But I am there. I am their junior, and having the grace to do that without making them feel uncomfortable, because for all intents and purposes, I was still learning. So yeah.
All right, fantastic. Thank you so much, Hugo, for sharing all that. One very key thing is that incremental growth aspect. Start small and grow progressively. Some people
Mhm.
just want to jump into the ocean at once, and then they start to, because they haven't perfected their swimming skills, of course, they start to sink. And then
Mhm.
the other piece, the major and most important piece I took from this was, getting a mentor, someone in the senior management level to actually, guide you, and then the observation piece as well. You took your time to observe, to shadow, and ensure that you were, looking out for mistakes, looking out for, success points. And that is really fantastic, Hugo. Thank you for sharing that. Now I'm going to pivot to the next question, and I'm going to rely on something you said. You mentioned the culture transfer, or was it a culture? I think it was particularly how you transitioned from a different, environment to the Canadian environment. I know that there are quite a couple of folks that struggle with that a whole lot. They're coming from different countries, not just Nigeria, and then they come into Canada. The culture is different. How are you able to, stay afloat? How are you able to absorb, the new culture and nuances and processes and policies? Is project management the same where you were coming from? And, what is it like here, basically?
Okay, good, great question. So from home, I knew that it would be hard if I tried to make that transition without going through some kind of learning process, which is why I came through school. So being in class and learning anew, I learned that there's a lot that my experience was valuable, right? So when you have professors talking about project management principles, they were very familiar to me. The things that were different were, of course, the construction process. The materials they're building with are very different. So even knowing the timing or what is acceptable construction period for certain things was new to me. But
Mm,
the other things like laying out a schedule, knowing that you should do your planning, knowing that you should have a budget, knowing that you should look out for and identify risks, knowing that you should look out for your stakeholders, know who's important, who needs to be kept informed, who needs to be satisfied. All those things were the same. Knowing the communication requirements of each person, those things were the same. Now, even though the contracts were different, and that was really important, I keep mentioning contracts because as a project manager, most of the time, because you can work either on the consultant side or you can work on the construction side. So I work as a consultant, so I'm an
mm,
owner's representative most of the time.
mm,
Most of the time, you're looking at contracts, you're administering contracts between owners and architects, owners and engineers, owners and builders, general contractors, and so on and so forth. So I had to learn all of that. And that's going back to school helped me learn that in a safe place. So I
mm,
wasn't learning by making a mistake. I was learning by professor coming to class and saying, this is a CCDC 5B contract. What is that? Because in Nigeria, we had the JCT, right? And then knowing that here in Nigeria, we mostly had relationships where you had the owner and the general contractor with the architect or project manager in the middle as an arbitrator or someone looking after the contract. But here you had a construction manager who went into contract with different people on behalf of the owner. What was that? So I learned all the different contracts and things like that. So that stood me in good stead. And then the co-op program. That was fantastic. I would say to anybody who's planning to come to Canada to work in construction as a project manager and you're planning to come through the study route, do not go through a program that doesn't have a co-op aspect.
mm,
This is my personal opinion, but I think the co-op program gives you two things. One, the opportunity to put to practice some of the things that you're learning in the classroom, everybody giving you grace to understand that you are a student, even if you have some gray hair, and understanding that, giving you that grace to learn. And then two, it gives you the opportunity to put your foot through the employment door,
mm,
because that was my story. So it gives you the opportunity to shine, to show the stuff that you're made of, to impress a potential employer enough to say, hey, when is your program ending? Would you like to stay with us? Would you like to work with us? So that was the transition for me. And then eventually starting to work, not being thrown in that deep end and getting into projects and then the benefits of colleagues, asking questions. So people don't know you don't know anything until you open your mouth and say nonsense.
mm.
So you listen, that's interesting. I'll get back to you on that. You know what? I need to look into this. I'll get feedback to you right after the meeting. And then you go back and you research and you ask your colleagues.
Hmm. Thank you. I like your bragging rights right there. This is someone that knew the stuff she was made of and she was begged to stay, right? I like how, you're able to, share with everyone, let them know that, once you get into an environment, ensure you're shining through, and that way you have the potential to be absorbed, into the environment. So yes, I think the co-op the co-op option definitely is something that would resonate with a lot of students, especially those that are just immigrating into the country. So one question I had for you again is on the job, and that
Mhm.
is with respect to, dealing with the stakeholders. I know that a lot of project managers experience this, where, for instance, the executive, the senior leadership team or the executive management team, whichever way is defining the organization, would come up and say, oh, it has to be completed by the 10th of October 2024. And you've looked at all the resources, all the constraints, and you can see that there is no way you can deliver by that date. How are you able to, make your case to such stakeholders without, causing some rip in the fabric? How are you able to put your foot down and ensure that you're communicating that clearly at the same time ensuring that the both is smooth sailing?
Communication is the key.
Hmm.
So the scenario you just described is a scenario that I frequently encountered in Nigeria, where people have unrealistic expectations and then they forget that you are in a you're in a context where anything, like literally anything, can happen. So it's an almost uncontrolled environment. Okay. So that frequently happened in Nigeria. Clients would say, we want this by such and such a date. Oh, the governor is coming to cut the ribbon. We must have it ready, and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't encountered that very much here. So, but I do have that. That is not to say it has never happened, but I've had a client who made commitments to their staff that they would have the building renovated by a certain date. And the staff were really excited. They'd made them that promise. And we said, this was at the beginning of the year. We said, fine, it is doable, but these are the things that we must have. We must do this by such and such a time. We must be able to commission the architect by such a time. We must complete the design. We must be able to submit our application for building permission by this time, and so on and so forth. So we worked out a schedule, the schedule. These are the constraints. These are the gates where this must happen by this date, this must happen by this date, and got their buy-in. And then the client started to do otherwise. They would go on vacation. The person who's meant to sign this wasn't available, and different things happening. And then they started to think, did you really want this? Oh, this project is finally starting. Can we do this? Can we do this as well? Can we also have this on? And then
Scope
somebody
creep.
went on vacation. The person who was taking over said, oh, by the way, we need to change this. This needs to be overhauled. And the scope was doing this and a
I
little bit
know,
of
right? And
and a little bit
expanding.
of that. Till we had to say, hey, everybody, hold it right there.
There. Uh-huh.
Your scope is it's creeping. You've not been able to confirm a budget to me.
Hmm.
And these gates, we're getting to those gates that we talked about. So eventually, we were able to sound the alarm loud enough to the client. So we have a system of regular reporting. So
Hmm.
not just monthly status reports, we have weekly meetings, touchdown meetings with the client, 30 minutes every week.
Hmm.
And we held the client to it. Even if they were dying, somebody else must be there. So we had those meetings, and each meeting we would, we had something, we used tools like an issues log or an action log where we tracked all the things that were really important. This is when it's due by, this is who's responsible, this is what is holding it up. And this, knowing the
Mm-hmm.
due dates knows that if this doesn't happen by this date, then these are the consequences. So we had many tools of communication to the client. So at no point in time were they in doubt what would happen to their promise that they made to their employees if this didn't happen. So communication is the tool. Eventually, we
Mm-hmm.
got the project back on track, got the clients back on track, got the scope in hand, so that even sometimes when they would say, "Hey, we want this," we're like, "This is the budget." And they're like, "Okay, let's put it for a like to have." And things like that. So we're right now on course to meet the commitment to the employees. So communication, 100%.
All right, I agree with you. Thank you for that. So communication, um,
Honest
and
communication. Don't sugarcoat stuff.
those that promise, they promise to do something and they never ever meet up just to keep the customer happy. Don't do it. Be transparent, right? It's very key. So I like the piece where you talked about accountability as well, holding the customers accountable. Because a lot of times you see, clients and customers that you work with, they know that they have, you know, dropped the ball a couple of times, like the vacation pays. Do you work in the public sector, by the way?
Private
Because,
sector.
but you work with some public, yeah. So I know that that is very, very, it happens a lot, in the public space. And yeah, I like the accountability part. So one thing is communication, and then the second thing is hold them accountable. Document. She mentioned the issues log, the actions log. Ensure you have your documentation at par, because when push comes to shove, you can very easily say, "Hey, here it is. This is what happened." Thanks, Ugo, for sharing that. I appreciate. Now the other thing I wanted to ask is, with respect to engaging with your stakeholders, you start a project most times on a high note, and then somehow, how people start to experience burnout, they start to get tired. How do you ensure that you keep your teams, keep them high performing all through the entirety of the project? What are the strategies or the tools, like what do you use to ensure that they stay motivated throughout the project?
Interesting. I think when we have milestones and we flash them and say, hey, this is the next one. This is the next big one. If we can do this, you keep a goal in front of people. To be honest, sometimes burnout is not that they had too much work and they got exhausted, but sometimes there's no challenge to overcome. So,
Mm,
like, how you have a difficult project and it keeps you up at night and you're thinking, how can we work this out? How can we work this out? And then sometimes when you've solved it, it's like, okay,
Nothing else, nothing challenging, like.
nothing challenging. So we keep the next milestone ever before us, as it were, and
Mm,
keep saying we have to do this, we have to achieve this, and to celebrate the wins. Celebrate each win, celebrate targets. You like on my project started status reports, usually have like a front page, like an EVM chart
mm,
that is tracking graphically, this is where we should be budget wise, spend wise, schedule wise, and all of that. And it's great to be able to show that this is how it's going, even pictorially, and say, put pictures in it. We've achieved this, we've done this, celebrate the wins, and then show something to look forward to. So we work in small teams on our side within the company. So small teams where you have like a lead or senior person or principal who shows up now and then to say how's it going, right? Then you the PM who's in charge of the project, and then you have an assistant project manager who you try to get them to do most of it because that's the only way they're going to learn, right? So chats internally, how's it going? How are you finding this? Can you handle this? So I frequently let go of things that I'm doing to that person. So that constantly keeps them on their toes because they're not just comfortable with what they're used to doing. Sometimes I will drop a heavier task on them and like, oh my gosh. So when they
something
do, I'm
more
like, something more. And
to
the
get
more
their
I get them,
adrenaline pumping.
exactly. So you keep challenging the people in your team, and then you
Mm-hmm.
keep challenging the clients by keeping the milestones that you've achieved before them, celebrating those wins, and then letting them know, hey, we've got this coming up. We can do this, and so on.
All right,
So for
that's
the
really great.
forecast. Yeah.
Yeah, I totally agree with you on that one. Those celebration milestone emails are very, very, like, I remember a certain project I was working on. I would notice that each time you send a celebration email, there you have some specific people, they will reach out to you and start to ask you for more work. Cindy, I'm working on this, I'm working on that. I'm like, okay, good, well done. So I agree with you on that one. And then your stake on the on giving more work definitely reminds me of the Maslow's hierarchy of needs. You know, at the point it goes beyond money, or it you get to the point of self-actualization, and at that point you want to actually, you know, um will I say, you want to basically help them get to that level by giving them more work, helping them feel appreciated, and letting them know that they are actually valued. And the only way you can prove their value is by giving them more work and then appreciating them for it. So really, really agree with you on that point, to go. And thank you for sharing that. So
Thanks.
on that note, I want to ask, for people that are looking to get into the construction project management, what are the kind of courses, you know, that you would advise that they take, either, you know, maybe on Coursera or externally or within, you know, colleges or universities? Are there specific courses? And if, for instance, I already have an engineering background, would you suggest I still go back to school to take a project management training, or would you suggest I just go for the PMP? I hope I didn't put too many questions in one.
I think you got it. So here's the thing. Certifications, I think, are a big deal here in Canada.
Mm.
So the organization I work for, they usually say CAPM or PMP would be an added advantage.
Did you call it
So
CAPAM?
the the one I've forgotten the full name, it just escapes
Okay,
my mind right now, but
okay,
that's the
okay.
one just before the PMP. So if you're
Oh,
applying
yes, yes,
for
yes.
PMI,
Certificates in Associates Project Management. Yes, yes, yes. Got it.
exactly that
Got it.
one.
Okay.
So if you don't have enough years of experience to apply
Mm.
directly to the PMP, you can for the PMP you can start with that one, right? So certifications are a big deal here in Canada, and you see a lot of applications that put that requirement there as a way of sifting or weeding the hundreds and hundreds of applications that they get. So there is nothing that says even if you're going back to school, you shouldn't do the PMP. I remember when I started my program at Conestoga, in our class of 37, I was the only person that had a PMP when we started. And by the time we were leaving, two more people had taken the PMP. One of our professors said he could not overemphasize how important it was for them to do it. And I know since we've left school, at least another three have had to go and get their PMP. They're seeing that because they're in the job market now. So
Yes.
certifications are important. I took mine at home before coming here because I felt I was going to be dealing with so much. I didn't want to add um, trying to get a certificate on top of that.
Mm-hmm.
Now, some organizations consider things like lead important, some sustainability certification. So it's either lead or what's that one? It's just escaped. I found out about that one here. It's another certification for sustainability, efficiency, and so on. So it's big in Canada because everybody's looking at energy efficiency. They're looking at zero carbon, net carbon zero. You hear that a lot. So if you can get those trainings and certifications, good. It stands you out again. Then if you can do it, if you can't afford to go back to school to do a whole year or a whole 2 year program, maybe you can consider some short courses, like you mentioned Coursera. If you're here with maybe a permanent residence card, you came in as a permanent resident, then you're not under pressure for a work permit. You can do a short course, which you can show that, hey, while I was here in Canada, I got this here in Canada, and so on. And then, of course, this was very important. Don't overlook opportunities to work for free. I know it sounds counterintuitive as a Nigerian, especially when you've got bills to pay. But
Mm-hmm.
I did a lot of research and I spoke to a whole lot of people before I came here. And somebody said to me that you will never understand the power of volunteering until you come to Canada, that it's premium. So, one of the first things I did when I got here, I signed up to volunteer with Habitat for Humanity. So it did two things for me. One, I was able to show it on my volunteer record that I worked with Habitat for Humanity, doing work for free. And then secondly, it gave me the opportunity to see how buildings are built here in Canada, firsthand experience. Back home, I wasn't a handy person. I could tell all the workers on site what to do, but right here, I had to handle the drill myself, the power saw myself, take the measurements myself, carry the wood myself. I did all of that, and it was really exciting.
Wow.
So that was advice I got. I mean, I knew I should volunteer. I didn't know where exactly, but I got this advice from somebody, the career advisor at school, and it stood me in very good stead. So if you're here and you're looking for opportunities to work and you haven't found it yet, you're still looking, try somewhere like that. There are people there, the guys there, the team leads, the accountants, they're people up in their career. They know people and they see you, you have a good work ethic. Hey, what'd you do? Oh, I'm looking for work. You're looking for work? Here's my card. Give me a call.
Yeah. Hmm. Totally agree
Join
with you on that
professional
one.
associations. Join
Mm,
PMI.
mm,
Get to meet people. Join OSET. That's the Ontario Association for Construction and Construction Engineering Technologists and so on. Join
mm-hmm.
that association. Get to meet people. Expand your network. Ask people, hey, can I talk to you? Can you mentor me? I have two mentors here who started their work as my mentors before I came here. I tracked them. I told them everything I was doing. This is what I'm applying for. This is the school I'm applying for. They were like, don't do this, try this, don't do this, and so on and so forth. When I started to do co-op, I went to visit one of them, spent an afternoon from 11 a.m. to 5 p.m., and I was writing furiously. He told me he's on ground. These are the good companies. Here, don't stay away from this one. Try this one. Ask me questions. He dug out what I really wanted. I thought I wanted to go into construction. He said, you have 20 years of experience in consulting. Don't throw it away. A contractor will not value that experience. A consultant will. It was like he was an oracle. And he
Wow.
sat down, gave me firms, and gave me a strategy. And I
Mm-hmm.
followed it to a T. And by the grace of God, it worked out just the way we worked it out. So, mentors, certifications, free work because you are learning,
Gaining
then
a
expand
lot,
your
actually,
network. Yes,
and
and expand your
expanding
network.
them. All
Yeah.
right. Thank you. Thank you so much, Ugo. Very, very thorough, very, very detailed. I think we can go ahead and just end it.
Where did the time go?
Yeah, yeah, the time did fly so very fast. And I want to thank you so much. Just one last thing before it's not a question. I just wanted to quickly drop it, the EVM chats, because I know that some people wonder what's EVM chats? That's the end value management chats, right?
Absolutely. Yes.
So what Ugo does is that she puts that chat to enable, stakeholders see, how you're going or trending in terms of costs. And you can, basically also calculate your budget, what it would look like by the end, at the onset, and as she progressed through the project as well. So really
Yes.
appreciate you bringing
Thank
all this fun stuff. I myself, I learned a whole lot. I don't know about you, and I'm sure you did, even though you won't say it. Please say it in the comment section. And really want to thank you so much, Ugo, for
you.
coming out to be on this program today. I appreciate it so very much, and we certainly look forward to having you again. Please just block your calendar for us, because I still believe that we still have more to gain from you. So I don't want to let you go anytime soon. Okay?
Thank
Promise
you.
you'll come back, please.
I'll come back. It's been an honor, and I'm really delighted to have been here. Thank you very much. And all you project managers out there, one thing I want to say or leave with you, believe in yourself.
Mm,
Life throws hard things at you, can make you undermine yourself, or sometimes the sheer volume of what you don't know makes you feel like you don't know anything. No,
mm,
you know a lot, and you are valuable. And somebody somewhere is looking for that experience that you have. Don't sell yourself short. Don't believe the lies that your situation is trying to sell you. You're
mm.
worth it.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Ugo.
Thank you.
Golden nuggets. Thank
Thank
you. All right. So I would bring the show to the end. I want to say thank you again one final time, and really appreciate you for joining us. And until we meet again on the PME, see you again next time soon. Have a wonderful one. Bye bye.
you.
Thanks, Ugo.